Welcome to the InnovaBuzz podcast, where our job is to help you build visibility, professional credibility, and connection with your ideal client by putting the human at the center of innovative marketing, so you can build and strengthen an engaging, enduring relationship with your ideal clients. I'm Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz, and I'm honored that you're here with me. If you haven't joined our wonderful marketing transformation community yet, go to InnovaBuzz.co and collect your free gift as well. Do subscribe to the show and also leave a review because it helps others find us. Let's get into today's masterclass on this InnovaBuzz podcast.
Even if you're not looking to hire right now, if you're not scaling, if you're comfortable doing your one person, single entrepreneur, solo entrepreneur, whatever that is, I would highly encourage you to still document the process that you do in and day out. This is super important. If you ever do want to sell, or you ever do decide to grow, you never know. But start now. Start small. Start with something as easy as, scheduling a meeting. How do you schedule a meeting? And then record that in a video. You'll be amazed at how much quicker you can transition either to sell your business with the systems in place or hire somebody more effectively with a reduced learning curve if you start doing that, because it's really hard.
Welcome back. I hope you've had an awesome week so far. If you haven't yet listened to my recent conversations with Sean Shepherd of GrowthX and with Karan Nijavan of Jube, then check them out after you've listened to today's conversation. I'm really excited to have on the InnovaBuzz podcast as my guest today, Jaime Jay, who's the Managing Director and founder of Bottleneck Virtual Assistants. The organisation offers professional growth opportunities for ambitious leaders by creating an efficient and systematic approach to identify, hire, and cultivate team members who focus on specific roles and responsibilities. Jaime also hosts the Culture Eats Strategy podcast, and he's a very prolific live videocaster with several episodes of his videocasts each week. In our discussion today, Jaime talked to me about building a culture of empowerment in your organisation. We talked about how to learn the biggest pain in your own marketplace. And we agreed essentially on the importance of documenting your processes. Without further ado, then let's fly into the hive and get the buzz from Jaime Jay. Hi, I'm your host, Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz, and I'm really excited to welcome to the InnovaBuzz podcast today from Springfield, Missouri in the USA, Jaime Jay, who's the CEO and founder of Bottleneck Virtual Assistants, and he's also host of the Culture Eats Strategy podcast. Welcome to the InnovaBuzz podcast, Jaime. It's a real privilege to have you as my guest.
Jürgen, thank you so much. I've been really pumped for this. Appreciate it. Thank you.
David Schreiner-Kahn, who was our guest on episode 276 of the InnovaBuzz podcast, suggested that we have a conversation with you, and he introduced us. So big hello to David.
Yeah, David's awesome. I love that guy.
Yeah, and we had a great conversation about all things podcasting and promoting podcasts and growing podcasts. Yeah, and I was on his show also about the what's his show
Going
called?
Solo or Smashing the
Going
Platform?
Solo. That's the one. Yeah, Going Solo. Talking about my corporate experience and how I transitioned into the real world. And I know you've got a story like that too. Now we were just comparing notes before we started recording, and we both started our podcasts at around about the similar time, just about 6 years ago. So
I think you got a month on me. I think I was September 13th, if memory serves me correctly. And you were August 14th. So yeah, you got a month on me.
All All right. Now, you're doing a lot of interesting things today with the podcast and with the whole philosophy around culture, its strategy, and of course your business Bottleneck Virtual Assistants. So before we dig into some of those topics, give us a bit of a whistle-stop tour of your background and how you got to where you are today.
Again, thank you so much, Jürgen. I'm really excited to be here, and thank you so much for having me on. Yeah, I guess it all starts probably around 2006. I was in corporate America for about 12 years. It took me about 11 years to figure out how to leave corporate America, and ironically enough, I ended up leaving to start my own company, which at the time in 2006 was an SEO firm that I started, and my first client was my corporation that I worked for. So it was a nice little transition out, and I never looked back. I've had massive challenges during the time, gone through the 2008 crisis. Here we are in another crisis. And one of the things that I made sure to do when 2008 hit, because I did lose a business, I didn't save my money. I was very irresponsible. I learned a lot from that. And I said, okay, things are going to change. I am now going to create the next venture I go on. I'm going to create something that's going to be as recession proof as possible, very systems oriented. I'm a very systems, a huge process driven fella. And I wanted to make sure that whatever I did, I approached in such a way that I will never take for granted the position that I'm in. And I want to be able to not only make it through myself, but help my clients make it through as well. And one of the biggest things that I noticed, there's two of them. Number one, when we hit a crisis, first thing to go, marketing and advertising budgets. Most people just stop, which I actually like double down on. The other thing that I realized was they lay staff off. So now people are no longer able to work or their hours are reduced, things like that. And so I said, whatever I do, I want to be in a position to where I can help alleviate both of those challenges. And through my SEO, my web development times, I didn't get enough contact to really build relationships because I would do a job in the project and then I was done. In a mastermind group, I had always had a virtual assistant since 2006. I like to refer to them, and by the way, we're the world's first dedicated distant assistant company. So I refer to them as DAs or distant assistants. I was told by my peers in the mastermind, I should start a business. And that's exactly what I did. And this allowed me not only to be able to help out my clients and give them lower overhead, lower costs, but actually help them train and hire and position themselves in such a way that should a crisis hit or a time of financial destitute, whatever you want to call it, comes around, which inevitably in every life cycle of business happens from time to time. I wanted to put my clients in the best position possible to jump over those hurdles and get through that. And I'm really proud to say that even though we got hit with COVID pretty good, a lot of our clients were able to keep status quo and keep going with regards to their low overhead. And it didn't really hurt them as much as the traditional means would have been as far as hiring.
That's a fascinating journey. Now, it just dawned on me, and I was reading through your website, the Bottleneck Virtual Assistants site, and listening to some of your other podcasts and your many YouTube videos that you do, and nowhere there do you actually openly refer to being a systems and processes guy. But it's just dawned on me that of course you would be, because otherwise a business like the distant assistants, as you call them, that would not work really well. So
exactly.
Tell us a little bit about the importance of that, because that's one of the things that, I mean, I'm a absolutely a systems geek, and
we're going to get along great.
We're about to publish the first ever guest I've had on 4 times, Dave Jennings. We're about to publish him next week as we record this. So that'll be, I can't remember the episode number, but it'll be August the, what do we got, 12? It'll be August the 19th that we publish it. And his book is Systemology. So I'll give him a shout out, but you'd be interested in that one too. So
oh yeah,
I'll talk to you about that after the show. But yeah, so tell us a little bit about how you built the systems with that new business of virtual assistants? Well, I guess you probably built them before that, right? When you had your own virtual assistant.
Yeah, but I will be very transparent, and I was not necessarily practicing what I was preaching. I learned a lot of this from a good friend, Scott Beebe, my business on purpose. Huge shout out to him. He's the one that really turned me on to the importance of um, doing something as if it's the last time you're ever going to do it. One of my
Mm.
favorite sayings, and I can't
Yeah.
unfortunately take credit for it. I have to give credit where credit is due, and that's Scott Beebe. But that is one of our main mottos: is do something as if it's the last time you're ever going to do it by documenting. So when you take on a task, no matter what it is, and we train our staff to do the same, we actually do a screen record and document, or in outline form, every single step. And we count a step as every time you click the mouse button. We're virtual, we're remote. Everybody's working on the computer these days. We're in Zoom. We have a documented step-by-step process on how to do Zoom. We have a documented step-by-step process on how we do our payroll. Step by step by step by step. Step one, log into this or go to this URL. Step two, log in the upper right hand corner. We'll circle it, with a little screenshot of what it is. And so every single task that we do in our entire company is processed out, workflowed out, I should say, in a step by step and video format. That way, one of the biggest challenges that I had, this is a great example. When I first hired a writer, it took me about 6 weeks to get this person trained up. That's a lot of time. And one
Mm.
of the things people have a misconception about is when you hire somebody, boy, all of a sudden everything's going to get a lot easier. Well, it's completely the opposite. Everything
That's
gets a
right.
lot more challenging in the beginning, and that's normal. That's where you should be. But what we did is I hired somebody who was an instructor, a university instructor in English. She could write like nobody's business. As far as the technical aspects of writing, though, optimizing SEO, that kind of thing, she wasn't well versed in that. So we had to go through that. And I had some experience in SEO and web development and blogging and stuff like that. So what we did is over that 6 weeks time period, not only did she learn how to do everything, but everything was systemized out, or workflow processed out, work in workflows. We were growing, so we needed another writer. In the time it took for the first writer to write their first blog unassisted was about 6 weeks. The second time around, it was about 7 days.
Mm.
And the reason why is they could follow step by step. And I cannot tell you. So, like for me, sometimes like nails on a chalkboard, it's just, oh my gosh, time consuming. But the amount of time you get back, not only in what it is that I'm doing in my life, I don't check my emails for more than 10 or 15 minutes now because that's a process. My assistant does that, and she's amazing. With regards to the writing, and hiring somebody, not only writing, but just hiring somebody, imagine how much quicker we can have them up to speed with a system in place rather than without a system. And the kicker of everything is, talk about valuation for your company.
Mm.
Making yourself replaceable is the ultimate. And so many people have a problem with that. For me, if I can outsource something or get something off of my desk that is not what I consider to be a high level activity, talking to Jurgen, doing something like that, then I don't want to do that task because that prevents me from actually scaling the company and thinking at a higher level, 30,000 foot view, researching new ideas and trends and stuff like that. That's what I love doing. I don't want to be sitting in email. I don't want to be writing a blog article. I can come up with the topics and the ideas and some resources, but I don't want to do the rest of the stuff. So that's why we do that. And so if I ever go to sell the company, my valuation will definitely increase because now we have the systems and process. You don't need me here. Anybody can come in, look at our systems, and do exactly what it is that we're doing to continue to grow the business.
Yeah, that's wonderful. There's so much to unpack in that, and I love the idea. How can you do this so you never do it again? I was looking at some photos of my old office from the early days of my business the other day, and on the whiteboard there, I've actually written down, handwritten, sort of at the bottom of the whiteboard at eye level where I was sitting. It said, you know, um, with every task, how can you do it so you never have to do it again? Or so
Oh my gosh,
the
that is
words.
awesome.
I looked. I was just reminded then because I was flicking through some old photos from those days. I started the business in 2007, so I had the experience of the global financial crisis as well.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Amen. I
And
tell you, that's
yeah.
it's a game changer.
In your example with the rider and the second rider that you brought on board, so who trained the second rider?
The second writer was trained in part by the first writer,
Yeah.
but mostly through the video overviews
Yeah.
and the step-by-step processes.
Because I think that's the other benefit of those processes. You're not just replacing yourself as a writer, you're also replacing yourself as the trainer for future writers or
Exactly.
whoever, whatever example you want to apply that to.
100%. Yeah, if you do something more than one time, you need a workflow,
Hmm.
in my opinion.
All right. So, how did you get started then with Bottleneck Virtual Assistants when this idea was floated to you that you've got some virtual assistants of your own in your SEO business, and why don't you turn that into a business, the managing the SEOs and providing them for others?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. So in 2006, I started off in that SEO company that I created, and a partner, he was a real estate agent in Stockton, California at the time, and he was from the Philippines. And he said, Jamie, I would love to be able to do this with you. Can we do like a real estate version? And that's where we kind of launched the real estate agency, kind of like an ad agency for real estate based professionals. Mind you, this is 2006. What happened in 2008, right?
Yeah, yeah.
my the pending doom was unforeseen, but it happened. But if I go back, he said, "Well, I've got some people in Cebu City, which is in southern tip of the Filipino archipelago." And said, hey, we can hire these people. We can get a full production team. We had a magazine we did. We were doing websites at the time, and they had a full production team. They were super smart, super kind. They completed all the tasks on time. And I was blown away because it's not like we're running sweatshops. We're looking at their economy, which at the time was even less than it is now, but they're running at about 75% less cost of living expenses than us here in the US. So if you're paying somebody there, say $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month, that is a huge salary. That's equivalent to probably someone here making 60, 70, $80,000 a month based on the cost of living expenses. And they actually have a higher level of English grammar and skills than the US does. They're at 72. I believe the US is down around 60 or 55. It's crazy. I forgot the exact numbers, but they're fantastic. And so I absolutely loved working with them. They're so kind. They're so thoughtful. They always want to do good. And it really worked out for us because when you start out in the company, you got to keep the overhead low. Fast forward about 10 years or so, I was part of a mastermind group, and everybody kept asking me, I want to get an assistant. How do I get an assistant? Oh, just go here and talk to this person. And then somebody said, Jamie, you got to turn this into a business. Although a lot of people would like to have their own assistant, and leverage their time and quality of life come back and all that kind of stuff. And I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. And it took off just like gangbusters. And I never looked back. Now we've, as you know, workflows, processes are living, breathing entities within your business. So you have to continue to update them and manage them. And as you grow, you identify different friction points, so you make the tweaks. But that's kind of how we got started.
Great. So do you have people working from home or working in an office?
100% remote. And they're in their second wave as of the date of this recording. If you're going to be listening to this at a different time, experiencing COVID right now in the Philippines, they're on their second wave lockdown. And it's not as major as the first time around, but it's pretty heavy duty. And many of what they call BPOs or business process outsourcing or virtual assistants that they have that are in offices there have been told to go home and work from home. So with that, you can imagine all the challenges and stuff that's come of that. But one of the benefits is being on the other side of this thing, we already kind of have a workflow and process for security, for VPNs, for hardwiring the computer in, making sure that there's a whole process. And every single one of our candidates, they do in paragraphical form, write out what their backup plan is. They're in an island after all. They're on an island. If the power goes out, what do? Do they have an uninterrupted power supply, a UPS they call it? Are they hardwired in? What if they drop their computer and it breaks? Do they have a backup computer? In what industry can they actually go to a coffee shop? And are they going to go on a public Wi-Fi? Like we have all this list of stuff that they can do to be secure. And so, yeah, most of them are working from home. I should say all of them are working from home. And it wasn't until COVID that many of these other organizations had to transition their entire workforce to work from home.
Yeah. Well, we have a team in the Philippines. We have them located in Manila in an office with a BPO structure,
Yep.
and that gives us a lot of flexibility. But of course, they've been working from home since
probably about March 20th.
Early March. Yeah, early March, I recall. And so now, fortunately, my podcast editor, and she will love you for all the things you've said so far when she hears this. My heart was getting warm as you were talking about all the benefits of working with the people in the Philippines and their qualities, and I thought, well, she'll love this. She unfortunately fractured her leg last year and had to have a surgery and everything, so that all went quite well, but she was obviously off her feet for 3 months, I think. And she said, well, I can still work, but obviously I can't commute to the office. So we actually organized for her to work from home during that time. And we set up all the systems and processes to do the work from home part. Now, I had a team working from home in the early days of my business, and that didn't work out for me for some of the reasons you talked about, the security stuff and power failures and internet failures and so on. So I thought this is easier. But with her going through that experience, we had everything set up. So when COVID came along and they said, oh, everybody has to work from home now, we said, okay, well, we just turn the switch. That's easy.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Good for you. I mean, that speaks volumes to the way that you're set up and the way that your business is set up. It's a huge endeavor because the status quo was not. We deal a lot with HIPAA compliancy. We have a medical division as well. HIPAA compliancy, yeah, you have to go in. You have to check you're not bringing your phones in. You have to go through a security gate in many of the offices there, and then it's really tight security. So now HIPAA, at least in the U.S., they've administered all these different regulations. They've even relaxed the HIPAA laws due to this transitional phase in time, but we have to go through an entire new HIPAA compliancy regulation specifically for remote-based teams. And so it's been a challenge. I mean, it's 16 weeks of new HIPAA, that we're going through. And all of our DAs, distant assistants, are working from home, meanwhile maintaining HIPAA compliancy according to the latest HIPAA compliancy rules and regulations. So there's a bunch of different things. They can't let their kid get on the computer. They have to sign off on it. Now, can you say 100% that this is going to happen all the time? Of course not. You're dealing with the human element. However, the better you have your system set up and the more training you provide early on, the more likely the people are, based on a set of criteria that we've administered, the more likely or unlikely they are to kind of not know that maybe they're doing a violation, a HIPAA violation, or some kind of security violation. You are not going to take and do medical billing or dental billing and go to the local coffee shop on a public Wi-Fi with access to all these people's information. That's a huge no-no. So how do we eradicate that? Education. It's a big deal.
All right. Well, that kind of is a nice transition into the question of culture, and I know that's a big thing for you. What I'm curious about in particular, given that you've got people that are working from home and not just remote from the business they're working with, but they're remote from colleagues, they're remote from other people in their own team. So how do you overcome that remoteness and build a really strong culture within those teams?
This is a fantastic question. I love this because there's two schools of thought, in my opinion, on culture. There's either good culture, there's bad culture, there's mediocre culture, but there's two rules of schools of thought, in my opinion. There's the opinion that they have to be around from the social aspect to build culture. The work nights out, or the bowling trips, or the bean bags and beer. That's not what culture is about, in my opinion. Then the second school of thought is empowerment. That is not location biased at all. So what we do is everybody on the team, we have very structured meetings. We follow a very structured meeting agenda. And in this meeting agenda, every week, a new person on the team leads that meeting. So everybody feels empowered. Plus, every single person that is in our team or works with Bottleneck, while they're given a basic overview of what their job role and responsibilities are, when they come on board, they write their job roles and responsibilities and present that to us. Of course, we go over it and we make some suggestions and tweaks and things like that. But that's empowering to them because now we know what they want to do. They have a clear understanding of what their job roles are. Plus, this is what they signed up for. This is what they want to do. The third part is making their own decisions. Every single person on the team does not have to run everything through me or everything through their department head. They can make their own decision. Now, if it's wrong, it's not going to bankrupt the company, but let's find out what happened, why that decision was made, and let's make the changes so that that doesn't happen again. And the way that they make the decision is in three parts. Number one, is it good for the company? Number two, is it good for the staff? Number three, is it then good for the client? And the reason why we do it that order, and this gives everybody the power to make their own decisions, is because if the company's not doing good, we're not profitable, how in the heck can we pay or take care of our staff? If our staff isn't happy, there's no way in the world I can expect them to help out our customers when they're in time of need or even do a job at the high professional level that we really want it to be. So by everybody being able to make their own decisions, now we form this culture that is just unbelievable. They get to lead in the conversations. We do spotlights on people. We do virtual parties. We did karaoke before. We've done all kinds of cool stuff. We're coming out with a new commercial spot by my good friend, Mark Hafner. He was an Emmy Award-winning audio producer. He wrote a song for us. We're doing like all kinds of cool stuff, with Zoom and us popping in and us saying hi and waving all to this music. And stuff like this is where I think culture is the epitome of a good, strong culture from a diverse group, because we don't have that social aspect, which is still really important. We're human beings. We're social beings. Having that kind of connection, that kind of trust, that level of authority on a person-by-person basis, I think is a huge compliment to having a positive workplace, even though we're thousands and thousands of miles away from one another.
Yeah, I love that. So, and I love that's one of the things I think there's coming out of COVID is people are discovering that you can actually have some of that social interaction too through Zoom, through being innovative in what you do, whether it's a party or karaoke.
Yeah,
I haven't heard that one before, but yeah, I can imagine that working on Zoom.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. You get to have fun.
And of course, singing is a big thing for the Filipino people. They
love it. Yeah, we don't want to. We recorded our call, but we don't want to. Oh Lord, embarrassing! I'll tell you what.
Okay, now one of the questions I did have was around so the customers of Bottleneck Virtual Assistants who, let's say I become a customer and I've got a team there. Is it a dedicated team for me? And how do you manage, or how do you get involved as Bottleneck Virtual Assistants, the business?
Yeah. So this took us a while to kind of position ourselves in the position that we are now. So we're actually, even though it's Bottleneck Virtual Assistants, we're actually anti-virtual assistant company. And what we are, and the reason why we are, is because virtual assistants, if you go Google virtual assistants, chances are you're probably going to come up with something about AI
Mm.
artificial intelligence, the computerized assistant,
Mm.
or you're going to come up with something that's more of a transactional based relationship.
Yeah.
Think of Fiverr or something like that. And please, I'm not talking anything bad about these organizations. I'm just talking about a different mindset, a different thought that I have. And we're not that. Bottleneck is not a transactional based assistant. We want an intimate based relationship or relationship based assistant. And that's why we call them dedicated distant assistants. We took the virtual out of there. It's not virtual. It's not virtually anything. And on the coattails of social distancing,
it's actually real, isn't it? It's virtual. It kind of
real.
implies it's not real.
It's a real human being, and we love that aspect. So what we've done is we've set up. So I call it the golden goose rule. Now, if you go Google golden goose, you're going to get a different definition of this. But the way that we define golden goose is that when we hire somebody, somebody's expectations are, oh my gosh, I finally have an assistant. Life is going to be great now. I'm going to have them check my email, manage my calendar. I'm going to have them build me a website, do my graphic design. They're going to edit all of my podcasts, all of my videos. They're going to, and as much as I would like to say, yeah, sure, Joey or Sally can do that for you. No problem. That's impossible for one person to do it and maintain the level of integrity for your brand that you want to maintain. So what we've done is we've defined dedicated, definitely put dedicated distant assistant in there so that you have one person that reports directly to you and nobody else. You have a dedicated single point of contact. Now, the challenge with that is, depending on what it is that you're looking for in your business, if the need arises, when we've identified 3 core areas of business for a team: graphic design, which is a specialty; web management, which is a specialty; and audio and video editing, which is a specialty. All of our dedicated distant assistants, and for the time's sake, I'll call them DDAs. All of our DDAs are trained in project management. So what happens if Jurgen says, you know what, I need a flyer done, or I need a nice graphic for my social media post for this theme that we're going on this month or whatever? You can have the confidence in knowing that your personal assistant is not a graphic designer, but you can still delegate that task to that person, he or she, and then they've been trained in project management to then delegate that to my internal team of experts: graphic designers, web developers, audio engineers, video engineers. And you can actually have that go to your assistant. They'll manage the entire process. You don't have to worry about it. And you only talk with one person. You're not going out and finding graphic designers, web developers, and all these other people. And then what will happen is when that project or task is completed, it goes back to your personal assistant. Your personal assistant now acts as quality control. And she makes sure all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and of course, maintains the brand integrity in which you value so highly. And then and only then will your assistant present that finished or completed task to you for your approval and or edits. And then it goes back with any edits, things like that. But can you imagine the amount of time that saves you? And you don't have to find that golden goose, that Superman or Wonder Woman. You don't have to do that. You found one competent person that you're going to build the relationship and trust with. And that's the huge difference that we believe a dedicated distant assistant has over the traditional transactional based virtual assistant.
Yeah, I like that. That's so that essentially there's a network there behind your personal assistant. If you've got somebody that might be specialized in a particular area, but you want stuff done outside of that, then there's a network of a pool of talent, if you like, of specialists in different areas that they can call on.
Yes, 100%. And it still gives you, like, if you need a specialty focus, maybe on social media, or you need somebody to do some books for you or something like that, these are all parts that you can say, hey, I want somebody that's going to be my assistant. Maybe they book my travel when travel comes back around. Maybe they're going to answer my phone calls, and give somebody an 800 number. They answer your phone calls and they direct the numbers. Maybe they manage your calendar. Maybe they do all of these things and do them very well. But now they have the additional capabilities of going into those specialty areas that a lot of people don't have in one person, or a lot of the skills one person doesn't have.
Yeah, I love it. And so that person then, even though they work for your customer, the business, they're still part of your organization as well in terms of the involvement and feeling part of a bigger thing. So if they're on their own working for their business, they're still part of that bigger organization.
I'm so glad you brought this up. Yes. But if I can elaborate, I love elaborating. I'm sorry. I get to talking. The beautiful part about this is they have a family, and I feel like we're all a part of a family. Every single month, since COVID started, every 2 weeks we've been meeting with the entire staff, not just my internal team, but all of the external service members, DDAs that work with my clients. And our clients can think of us kind of like a virtual HR company, or a remote-based HR company. We're there to help with all of the things that aren't as comfortable. Maybe there's disciplinary issues. Maybe there's financial issues. Any finances, they never have to talk with our assistants about at all. We handle all of that. If they want to give raises, they go through us. They never go through the assistants. The assistants report. We have check-in policy procedures. They check in first of the day before they go to lunch. They let them know they're going to leave. After they get back from lunch, they say, hey, I'm back from lunch. 15 minutes prior to the end of the day, they say, hey, I got 15 minutes prior to the end of my shift today. Here's everything that I've completed. Is there anything else you need me to do today? Yes, no. Okay, it's the end of my shift. Thanks. I'll see you in the morning. So we're very structured in that, and a very family-oriented business. Now, if a VA or DA has an issue with one of our clients, there is a process that they go through on our recruitment side, and we handle that, and we make sure it goes both ways. So if there's difficulty on the assistant side, we're going to go right to that client and say, hey, what the heck's going on?
Yeah.
It goes both ways there, and we felt that the assistant, and the other benefit of that is if they don't know how to do something, it's a pretty good chance that someone else in our organization knows how to do that. So they have a great network of inner circle, friends, family. It's so neat to see multiple assistants hanging out with each other, and taking pictures and having fun. So it really is a family-based oriented business, in my opinion.
Have you ever had an in-person get-together where you've gone to the Philippines and brought them all together?
It was going to happen already, COVID. So we are looking to do it, hopefully at the beginning of next year. And we're bringing everybody together. They're bringing their families. We're going to do a weekend of it. We're all going to go have a blast. We're going to sing songs. We're going to give awards. We're going to have so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds like fun.
Yeah. It's crazy. I have a developer that's been with me 6 years. We've never met. We've never met in person, but we know so much about each other. It's just insane how small our world has become with the inception of technology. It's brilliant.
All right. Well, this is fascinating, but I did actually want to touch on podcasting and live streaming. It seems that you're focusing more on live streaming these days, because I think it looks like the last podcast episode was in March. So tell us a little bit about, is that a transition or have you just sort of focused on live streaming and paused the podcast for now?
Yeah, we paused the podcast for now. And the decision was a difficult one. And as much as I love culture, it was taking me too far away from the goals in the business for Bottleneck. And I wanted to kind of bring that back. I still wanted the medium. I absolutely love podcasting. Thank you for podcasting. It's allowed to build our business, enjoy my life so much more. The unbelievable people we've met, the business that we've been able to do, the everything. I think I can contribute probably 80% of that to podcasting. Absolutely love it. The challenge with it is the amount of work that takes after an episode is recorded is immense. Think of the editing, the writing, the publishing, the marketing. All of that takes a lot of time and it's a lot of money. Instead of taking that as an expense column in our business, we've now turned that into a profitable area, because now I can leverage our integrated services program, ISP, one of those core 3 groups is audio editing and video editing. So now what I've done is instead of paying for that,
Hmm.
because I made the transition over to live streaming where it's published automatically, I now have an income source. And so that was a big game changer for me. The other thing that I really like about the live streaming is the interaction. You can have people asking questions as you're doing it. As soon as I'm done with my live stream, it's posted to YouTube, Periscope, Twitter, LinkedIn, because I'm part of the LinkedIn beta live, Facebook, and a couple different Facebook pages, I think. But it's all done. It's all out there, and it's just amazing how fast that happens. Meanwhile, I have the audio and video editors actually doing productive income based work for us now. So that was a pretty easy decision on my part.
Mm.
I still get the rush of podcasting. I still get to meet people. I still get to have fun. And now I get to introduce crowds and interactions and questions. And it's just really neat. It's just a new kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like radio or something. I don't know. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. So how often do you do the live stream? Seems to be a lot.
Yeah, we do it every Tuesday and Thursday Central Time, 2 p.m. We have some amazing guests on there. We just had Neil Sahota, who is the United Nations AI advisor.
Mm.
He was part of the IBM Watson team and talking all about artificial intelligence and the good of it, because I kind of challenged him on it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
had
I got
some
that.
negative things on there, and he was really cool. It's just little cool relationships like that we get to build. Every once in a while, I'll throw in an oddball. And then my wonderful, brilliant wife, Sarah, love her to death. She's my business partner here. We have every Friday a live that is an extension of Live with Bottleneck, but we do a week in review. And together we sit down and we talk about what happened that week, the challenges we had, and how we overcame them. And we started that because of feedback that we were getting. A lot of people wanted to hear about that. So we started kind of a special edition of Live with Bottleneck. So and we get to spend time together. So it's a good win. So we'll do 2, 3, maybe 4 a week.
That's prolific. Now, how do you deal with, because one of the issues for me with live stream is time zones to get a global audience on live, because as you say, one of the big benefits of live streaming is actually the audience interaction that you get with people kind of typing stuff in the chat or asking questions. And so there's for your conversations that you're having with the guests, there's a bit of audience generated content, if you like. So the audience is saying, hey, I've got a question, or I want you to dig deeper on what he said last.
Yeah, this is what I like about it too, is that was something that I really struggled with. Like, what time are we going to do this? And oh man, what if people aren't showing? What if they're at work? What if they're sleeping? And I finally came and I said, you know what? I need to create edutainment,
Hmm.
entertainment and education at the same time, bring on unbelievable people and give an opportunity for replays to happen, because so the people can find something. If they really have a topic that they want to learn about, they can still learn about it on their own time. And if we get questions, that is a bonus.
Hmm.
So it was really hard because we thought about that. I believe me, I know time zones. My staff is in the Philippines.
Yeah.
So that was part of what I ran through my head. Australia, New Zealand, different time zones everywhere. And we've said, you know what? We need to make really good content. We need to have fun. And we're just going to do it Tuesday and Thursday scheduled times. On occasion, I will come up, if it's a really important topic, get a really good, interesting guest on, and they can only do it at a certain time, I'll do it at a certain time. But for scheduling wise, Tuesday and Thursday, that's our consistency hit, and Friday morning at 10 a.m. Central.
All right. Well, this is absolutely fascinating, Jamie. I could go on for ages talking about all these things. We've only just sort of started or touched on podcasting and live streaming and producing content. But I think I'm looking at the time. I was surprised how quickly the time's flown. It's a good point, I think, to move on to the Buzz, which is our innovation round, and it's designed to help our audience, who are primarily innovators and leaders in their field, with some tips from your experience. So I've got 5 questions, and hopefully you'll give us some really innovative answers that'll inspire the audience to go and do something awesome today as a result.
Oh boy, now you got me.
What do you think the number one thing is anyone needs to do to be more innovative?
I think they need to, if they have an idea, test it out first. Ask around, colleagues and things like that. Don't be like me and make a 93 video course series
Yeah.
that sells one person. uh, Test it out first. If it's innovative, you may think it's innovative, but does anybody else?
Hmm.
Especially those early adopters, right? Those people there. That's who you need to talk to. Find out if you can get a couple sales going. If you can, then build it out.
Yeah. I mean, that's the lean methodology, right? We had
Yeah.
a interesting conversation with Steve Blank, who is the father of lean methodology. So he was definitely supportive of that idea.
Oh my gosh. That's someone, him and someone like what was it, Jeffrey Moore, Crossing the Chasm?
Yeah, Jeff Moore, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Big believers.
Yeah.
Big fan, by the way.
All right. Now, what's the best thing you've done to develop new ideas?
Surveys. Surveys is really big for us. Our avatars, basically, we have 5 different avatars in Bottleneck. And all of the ideas for the marketing efforts that we're deploying came from our clients, our survey clients and prospects and trusted advisors. So we sent out surveys, got the feedback from that, and that's what ultimately gave us the idea on what direction to go, what the messaging was, and how many different messages we were going to have. In our case, we have 5. So it was that survey was very helpful. And of course, surveys is a difficult thing, because if you don't have a base, how do you get the surveys out there? It could be a difficult thing. But no matter what, if you can get 5, 10, 15, 100 is awesome. If you can get feedback from 5 or 10 surveys, that is going to be your ideas, because you're listening to pain points. If you listen long enough, it's going to give you your answers on how best to move forward with innovation.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Did you follow up those surveys with in-person conversations to dig deeper?
100% of them. 100% of them.
All of them?
Yep.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
Yep. Anybody, and we even, one little side note is, I'm very vulnerable, very transparent, very, I told you I wear my heart on my sleeve. I don't care if someone is going to attack me. I take it as constructive criticism. Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate that. What I did was I reached out, and these surveys, it was kind of a humbling experience. We found out a lot of really good things that we did. We also found out where we were dropping the ball big time. And I was clueless to this. So I wrote an email out to my entire email list, and the subject was, "I'm so embarrassed." We got a 55% open rate. And what we did was I listed out everything on the surveys that was bad. Like, that was crazy. I thought, should I do that? And I remember hitting that send button going, oh my God, what did I just do? What did I just do? I put out there, we were dropping the ball here. We weren't training enough here. We didn't respond fast enough here, or whatever it was. But before I sent that, we had a meeting, the team, and we reviewed all of the surveys, focused a lot on the negative or the constructive, and said, what are we going to do about this? And we addressed every single negative item or constructive criticism, and we came up with an opportunity to improve upon that. And so not only did I put in here all the balls we dropped, but I also said, we had a meeting, and this is everything that we're going to do to fix this. We promise everyone this is what we're going to do. And we've done it. And I got so many replies back from that email. Hey, thank you for, this is very courageous. Thank you for your vulnerability. I thought, oh my gosh, I was going to get a bunch of unsubscribes. How could you do this stuff? I mean, some of it was terrible stuff that we missed. And like, obvious. How did we miss that? But I put it all in there. And I believe something like that really helped us out.
Yeah, there's so much to love about that. I mean, first of all, taking the mindset of that feedback, even though it is embarrassing, is a gift. It's a gift that provides you an opportunity to improve and address some things that aren't working. And then secondly, having the courage to be vulnerable in front of everybody, because I'm guessing that a lot of people that received that email may not have known that those things were broken, and they weren't the ones giving the feedback, but you put it out there to everyone. So yeah,
And speaking of innovation, if you're not scared or uncomfortable, you're not innovating,
yeah,
in my opinion. Now, that's my opinion.
mm,
But seriously, if you're very comfortable with what's going on, that's not very innovative.
that's right.
You don't know what's happening on the other side.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
you don't even have early
yeah,
adopters or mainstream happening right now. It's like, there's a challenge there.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of if you're not failing, you're not stretching enough, right? You're not testing the
Yeah,
boundaries enough. Mm.
exactly.
All right. Do you have a favorite resource that you use most often, apart from your remote, distant workforce?
Yeah, definitely the distributed workforce is by far is pretty cool. Our CRM is HubSpot. We use Basecamp a lot. We really enjoy Basecamp. It's a really incredible way of inviting in our integrated services program partners so that they can interact or our assistant can interact with the team directly. And that's what we train on. We just absolutely love it. Project management tool, Basecamp 3.
Yeah. And Basecamp's a fascinating company too, right? They've got a
Yes,
really interesting story.
really interesting story. Basecamp, you look at a lot of these companies out there. Basecamp, what is it? GitHub, uh, InVision, um, Automatic,
Mm,
Matt Mullenweg,
mm,
who was one of the co-founders of WordPress.
yeah.
Talk about distributed workforces and maximizing
Mm,
systems and workflows and processes that way. Insane.
mm. All right. Now, what's the best way to keep a project on track?
This is a great one. Uh, Setting expectations and following up on those expectations. So if a project, it always have the next step. So there's at the end of every single conversation, interaction, whether it's on Basecamp or project management software or in-person meetings, always have that call to action, what's happening next, and give a specific date and time. Now, another thing is all of our internal team, I will set a date for a due date. They have the ability to come back and say, Jamie, I can't do this by then. I need to get another day on this. But they always commit to it, whatever they sign off on. I never force a deadline, but I think that's the most important way. Always have the next step until the project is complete. And we put signals in or little, like if we finish a website, the second we send the deployment kit to the client, we tell the client this project is done.
Hmm.
You've agreed, we've agreed, it's done. Anything else is a separate line item, separate scope. Same thing in our business. When we finish something internally, we have a signal. When that signal happens, that project is done. Until that signal goes off, you need to have something else to do. If you don't, reach out and say, hey, I've finished with this. What's next?
Hmm.
If that signal does not happen, you're always asking what's next if you finished it.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. The signal, the end signal.
Yep.
Hmm. All right. And what's the number one thing anyone can do to differentiate themselves?
Oh, this is great. The number one thing that you can do to differentiate yourself is basically listen to what the market is telling you and be able to deliver upon their biggest pain point. For us, one of the challenges for us was that one assistant couldn't be everything to everyone. So that's how we came up with the integrated services program. And to date, I don't know of any other organization in our space, which is about a $16 billion industry, that does the integrated services program like we do. And the other problem that we had was nobody knew really how to hire. According to Glassdoor, it costs $4,129 in the US to hire somebody and up to 9 months' salary to fire somebody. If you're not spending the time educating yourself on how to hire somebody effectively, you're going to drop the ball there. So what did we do? We came up with an entire client onboarding portal that all of our clients go through absolutely free, no cost to them, with every single step that they can do to prepare to hire somebody effectively. Now granted, I've hired over 1,000 people. I kind of have some practice and some
Hmm.
background in this, and so does our team. So we all got together, created step-by-step videos with written overviews on what they can do to get started. Step 1, delegation roadmap. Step 2, meeting agenda, or I'm sorry, job roles and responsibilities. And step 3 is a meeting agenda. and we go into detail how to use our templates and get that done so you can hire efficiently. So I say this because it's a good example on how we differentiate ourselves. We're not better. I'll never say we're better, but we're very different because we're not transactional based, we're relationship based.
Yeah, I love it. So you've essentially said we're going to take a position that's outside the mainstream, and we're going to do it because it's consistent with our values, our culture, our why, and also it addresses a big pain point.
Yeah, you just said it a lot better than I did. Oh my
I
goodness.
listened and summarized. Okay, now
Oh.
this has been absolutely fabulous, Jamie. Now, where can people find out more about Bottleneck Virtual Assistants and about you and your shows, and maybe even reach out and get involved and say thank you for what you've shared with us today?
Jürgen, I take my hat off to you. Thank you so much for honoring me by inviting me on your platform. It's pretty straightforward. You can go to bottleneck.online or just search Bottleneck Virtual Assistants. The nice thing about the Bottleneck searching is you'll see a lot of third-party resources that have taken the time to suggest the ability that we're able to follow through on what we say. So it's not only us praising ourselves, which we must do, everybody must do, but it's a lot better to see these third party resources. And the thing I might leave you with on this one too, if you're at all overwhelmed, you're missing deadlines, your quality of life is driving down, you're stressed out, you don't really know what to do, you don't know how to delegate, start doing some research and learn about this whole world of what a distributed workforce may be able to do for you, and Google it. Look at all the other companies out there because there may be a company that's a better fit than Bottleneck. We're not a fit for everybody, but go out there and do the research. You will come back with so much more ammunition or information. And then at that point, if you want to follow through and talk with one of our representatives, set up an inquiry. It's a free consultation, but you'll come better armed. So you'll be able to be better equipped to ask questions. It's really important that you do the research on this because you need to be doing this. Is one of the most important things you'll ever do. One of the most expensive things could be one of the most expensive things is mishiring.
Yeah. Yes, and speaking from experience, I had a couple of experiences in the early days of when I was managing everything myself. When I say managing everything myself, I was hiring independently single remote workers in the Philippines and throwing them together as a team, and they're all in different locations. I didn't have the systems set up as you have in terms of what's the expectation in culture and what's the expectation in reaching out to one another and so on. And I had a great core team, but we really struggled. We were trying to bring on board a couple of specialty roles, and we really struggled there. And we had people come on and then they'd vanish, and then we had people come on and mess things up, and the core team would have to clean up after them, and it really was a disaster. So yes, do some research first. Get involved in training like Jamie provides in terms of how to hire and so on. So we learned that the hard way. It would have been helpful to have something in place that taught us that much more quickly than how we've ended up learning it, and then explore the options.
Yeah, I agree. If there's one little piece of advice that I may offer to anybody, even if you're not looking to hire right now, if you're not scaling, if you're comfortable doing your one person, single entrepreneur, solo entrepreneur, whatever that is, I would highly encourage you to still document the process that you do in and day out. This is super important. If you ever do want to sell, or you ever do decide to grow, you never know. But start now. Start small. Start with something as easy as scheduling a meeting. How do you schedule a meeting? And then record that in a video. You'll be amazed at how much quicker you can transition either to sell your business with the systems in place or hire somebody more effectively with a reduced learning curve if you start doing that, because it's really hard. Jürgen, I can't get into your head, but I can definitely read a step-by-step guide on how you want me to participate in this podcast. And you made it so easy for me. It was very impressive, by the way. A third grader could have joined you during this because you were so detailed in the approach, and I knew exactly what to expect when I got here. So I say thank you for that. And that's all systems based.
Oh, thanks. That is one of the ones we think we've got nailed reasonably well, and we're always tinkering with it. So it's never complete. It's always being improved upon. All right. Well, is that the parting advice you'd like to leave our listener with today?
Yeah. I kind of jumped
the question. I thought I've written it down in that column. So. Great. Yes. Document your systems, regardless of whether you're ready to bring on board staff in whatever capacity, documenting the systems. I guess I'm a person for making lists because I like to get this stuff out of my mind. And also, I do things, and if I come back and do it the second time and have to look it up again, and I spend another 10 minutes or so doing a Google search or whatever it might be to find out, well, how do you do that again? I really get angry with myself and say, why didn't I put that into my documented system? Because I've got one place where everything's documented, and if it's there, then it will take me a second to find the checklist. If I know what I'm doing, I just use the checklist. If I'm not familiar with the task, I'll go to the detailed instructions. But yes, that's magical advice.
Yeah, one of the healthiest things you can do is a brain dump.
Okay, now who else should I get on this podcast and why?
Who else should you invite on this podcast? Maybe Neil Sahota. He's the author of Own the AI Revolution, Unlock Your Artificial Intelligence Strategy to Disrupt Your Competition. He's a master inventor and United Nations AI advisor, and he was also, as I mentioned before, on the IBM Watson team. Incredibly gifted, very intelligent person who is very easy to understand, and he puts a new spin on AI, a new perspective for the good.
Okay, well, look forward to having that conversation. We might get an introduction from you because I did watch your live stream with him, and I thought, that's fascinating because I had a lot of questions there specific to marketing, I guess, and a lot of the technology and that automation that people use in marketing these days and why they abdicate to it rather than come back to the relationship side of things.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Based on that conversation, I met a person, Dan Goldstern, I think is his name. He's out of New York, and he has a company called Dojo.co. It's an AI-based commercial real estate software that actually uses artificial intelligence to strategically place all the different teams and everybody in a building. And it also identifies which team members using AI can work very productive and effectively via a remote-based environment. And that was very interesting to me. AI's working for the good can really do a lot of good. Data is king. Data is worth more than anything, in my opinion. And if you can use it for a good reason, why not?
Yeah, great. Well, before we get too deep into AI, because there's lots of stories I can tell about AI, good ones and not so good ones. But we'll save that for a conversation with Neil. Well, thanks so much, Jamie. I've really enjoyed this. I've had a blast talking to you about processes and remote teams and culture in remote teams and everything around that. I mean, we've strayed on to podcasts and live streams as well. Only touched on those, but maybe we need to have another conversation.
Anytime. And I'm so sorry. I've got a tremendous ESS, and I call it entrepreneurial squirrel syndrome. So my apologies to you for my overly advanced ESS problems.
I love it. Love it. Yeah. All the best for the future, Jamie. And let's keep in touch.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Jürgen.
Bye. I hope you enjoyed that insightful and engaging conversation with Jamie and took something away from his episode. I particularly like his idea of having an end signal for tasks or projects, sort of like milestones, but with a clear signal that needs to be triggered before the task can be called complete. I'd love to know what you took away from Jamie's episode. leave a comment below the blog post, which you can find at innovabiz.co/Jaime Jay. That is Jaimejay, all lowercase, or one word, innovabiz.co/Jaime Jay. You'll also find some contact information there for getting in touch with Jaime, as well as links to the Bottleneck Virtual Assistants website, the Culture Eats Strategy podcast, the Bottleneck Virtual Assistants YouTube channel, his social media pages, and the other resources we spoke about in our conversation today. Jaime suggested that we have a conversation with Neil Sahota, author of Own the AI Revolution, on a future InnovaBuzz podcast episode. So Neil, keep an eye on your inbox for an invitation from us to the InnovaBuzz podcast, courtesy of Jaime Jay. Tune in again to the next episodes of the InnovaBuzz podcast, where we've got more fantastic guests lined up, including Jonathan Green of Serve No Master and psychologist and executive coach Richard Orbe Austin. Thanks for listening to this episode. Make sure you subscribe to the show to be reminded of new episodes. It's free to subscribe. Leave a review if you like. Even if you don't like me, I'm okay with that. I'm asking you to leave a review because it helps other people find this show. Go to innovabiz.co to join our marketing transformation community and access a free gift my team and I made for you. It's the Marketing Master Mini Class. We want to give you everything you need to transform your marketing into a human-centered, relationship-focused growth engine. Until next time, I'm Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBiz. Remember, be awesome and keep innovating.